timelines, time travel, deliberate creation, changing your reality to what you prefer. This and more we're going to talk about on Elevate today with the gorgeous KAren Spagna. It's going to be a great show. I can't wait to hear your questions. Stay tuned. Welcome to Elevate, the awareness shift, waking the quantum self. I'm KAren Swain, your host, and you're listening on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio all over the world. Hello and welcome to another show. I was going to say accentuating the positive. Where am I? Elevate, the awareness shift, waking the quantum self. Accentuate the positives, the other show. Oh, we got one person online already. Who's that? The gorgeous Heidi. Hello. Good day. Good day, darling. How are you? And with me to have a chat about this is the fabulous KAren Spagna. Welcome,
Hello. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm saying welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you, KAren.
We're both rushed. I love your background. Where are you? You've got boats outside, and
I'll tell you a little story. It's not my house. It's my parents' house. Right? They live here. They bought the house after I went away to college. So I never actually lived in this house. Although,
really?
No, but it's very beautiful here. So yeah, it's really lovely.
Yeah, gorgeous view. For people listening on radio, I'm looking at the view behind Laurie, and just noticed that too. She says, "Gorgeous." Yeah, Heidi. Yeah.
I actually picked up a lot of slack, and a long time ago, a debunker radio show tried to debunk me. It was so stupid, and that was all they could find. Like your parents live in a rich house. How can you teach about money? It was a stupid, really horrible interview. It always haunted me because it was a debunk show. She couldn't debunk me. And finally, she just tried to go after me about money. Like, how can you teach about this spiritual laws of money? Like, well, I don't know. It was dumb. But anyhow, yeah.
Crazy.
She knew about my parents' house, but I wasn't even born here or raised here. And they didn't buy it until after I went away to college. So I never really lived here either.
But what's that got to do with anything? I mean, if you are teaching,
I don't know. Money, it was on my mind. You know what? It just came out because you mentioned it. And
look at your little friend.
We have an animal friend here with us today.
What's her name again? I forgot. Emma. You've told me a million times. Emma.
Or Emma Shasta. Emma is the female word for truth, for Emet in Hebrew. And Emet means truth. And when she came to me, that was one of the things she said. She said, "Mommy, don't change my name," because Emma was the name that she was given. She said, "Mommy, don't change my name. I'm going to help you learn all about truth and divine synchronicities. And I'm going to help you meet your partner, your twin flame. Yeah. And keep my name." And it turned out there was this incredible synchronicities with this guy that I had the biggest crush on. And it turned out his name was Truth.
Oh, really?
We met because of her. I guess I tell the whole story that well, but we met because of her. Anyhow, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Because
have you heard of Pam Oldsley?
Oh yeah, she's a colleague. Yes, I know her.
Yeah,
a colleague. I know her very well. Yeah, she does aura colors.
I had her on the show years ago. I can't remember. Yeah, she does aura colors. She might be retired now because I remember she was saying back then that she was a little bit over it. She'd been doing it for a million years, and she has a story because we're talking about timelines. She has a story. Her story on the show was exactly that, about how she collapsed a timeline. When she was young, she was madly in love with this boy, and they dated for a while, and she wanted to marry him, and he was absolutely dead certain that he didn't want to get married, and especially to her. and so they broke up. They broke up, and he moved away. He moved out of state. And she was like, "No, this is the dude. This is the one. To me, this is the one." He might not see that. So in her mind, she visualized the life that she knew she was going to live with him. And then eventually when he did come back, he changed his mind and they got married and happy ever after. So like she flipped the timeline in that way. You're looking very skeptical, darling, when I'm looking at your face.
I'm not skeptical that she did. I have a big red flag. I mean, and I don't like it's related to another person. It doesn't feel right to say, but no, no, we do not influence other people's free wills. We can.
Well, I don't think
that is not okay. That's not okay.
You know, like, was it a timeline where he was in love with her? It's not like she's influencing his free will. It's just that on one timeline, he's not chosen her. And on another timeline, he has chosen her. So it's not really influence. It's not like she stalked him and said, you have to be in love with me. She just visualized it in her mind. She just lived the life. She just kept living the life in her mental of the life she wanted with him. I mean, I would never have done that. If somebody rejects me, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, there's somebody else around the corner. I'm just like, it's not you, it's somebody else. But but she was pretty determined that, so maybe she had tapped into that timeline where they were together, and she was on another timeline where he rejected her. But she's like, no, don't want to be in this one, want to be in another one, or want to focus in this other one. That other timeline where they were separate played out. But her focus at the time she was on the show with me has that reality of Penny Kelly talked about this too when I had her on the show. Do you know Penny Kelly?
Yep.
She said when she was young, she always wanted to be a writer. And even though she's written 1 million books now, she got married young and she was looking after a farm. And for the longest time, she didn't have any time to write. But she met a parallel reality self who lived that timeline. She never married. And she wasn't a country bumpkin. She stayed in the city and she started writing, and she became quite successful and wrote articles for magazine and wrote many books. And so she met her alternative self, her parallel reality self that was on a different timeline. Yeah, go on. Let me let you talk.
Yeah, but that's totally different because that's not influencing the will of another. I just say this. I just because my role in what God's plan is to serve God's plan. One of the biggest things that I have been taught about here on earth is through the channeling and through my work, my direct work, is number one, and this is a little off topic, but it's relevant. It's relative. Is number one, the different agendas, and number two, so I'll break that down kind of quickly. And then number two, the overriding law that divides the agendas, which is the law of free will. So let me explain. Overall, and this is all through channeling and guidance, there are basically 5 agendas going on earth. Overall, when you talk about humans and what's happening, you have an agenda of the dark, you have an agenda of the balance. I'll tell what they all are. You have an agenda of the light, you have agenda of service to self, and then you have an agenda of service to the greater good.
Yeah.
So the agenda of the dark is to provide from the higher realms. It's to provide for infinite potentials, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But out of the agenda of the dark has sprung sub-agenda, which is service to the self, to the harm and detriment of the many. Yeah. That serves the self, not only to the harm and detriment of the many, but with the purpose and intention of manipulating, controlling, lying, cheating, hurting, harming, force, domination, manipulation, secrecy, coercion. Now, how does that agenda operate? By attempting to sway or manipulate free will. So when for example, big pharma commercial, great example, comes on and says, ask your doctor, and they're working on your brain waves. They're putting you into high alpha, a light alpha, butterflies and rainbows, isn't everything wonderful? And then they put you down into a deep beta, may cause death, may cause suicide, call your doctor. They're creating a schism in the brainwave pattern on purpose to manipulate your free will, to get you concerned and anxious and make you subconsciously program you better call your doctor, or you need this pharmaceutical. Now, that kind of thing is done all over our reality, all over and all the time. Like
We
all
are
the time. And it's
constantly
some of the worst
bombarded.
culprits of that are people in the light who think, I'll just send them some love. I'll throw them some love. Send them love and light. And maybe that's not what that person needs. Maybe that's not what that person wants. I've gotten calls sometimes where, light workers will be like, okay, we need to clear the energy. And they start forcing their energy. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Did anyone ask for that? Invasion of free will. People. So you're serving the dark every time you attempt to take away someone's conscious consent. I sound like I'm lecturing because I'm passionate about this.
Go girl.
I get it. There probably was a timeline, and who knows? We don't know the whole story. So this is not about someone. Maybe there was a major learning lesson in there. Maybe there was soul contracts. Maybe there's all kinds of things.
I've got to tell you, at the time she told me when she was on the show, I was exactly like you, Laurie. I was like, is that okay to do that? Like, it's, she forcing her will on another. And then I nutted it over, as I do when I have questions. I go to the mob, I go to the guides and like, tell me about that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right, because there's a gazillion influencing factors, because here's what happens with universal laws. When a law of free will is sort of attempting to be crushed or canceled or somehow stepped on, the law of free will look to the other law and say, hey, is there some kind of contract? Because that's a sub law of free will in a sense. The sub law, well, they made an agreement somewhere, or maybe there is some kind of karmic residue or whatever. So I get it. There's other influencing factors. But in my role of serving the light, I know I've been taught never, ever, ever try to influence or sway another person without overt conscious free will consent. And I've been really mindful of that also because I'll tell you a little story. When I was going through my awakening, radical transformation, I was living in Maui, going through a divorce. And I did. I mean, I tried to, I was like lonely. I missed my husband. There were times I did a little psychic spying, traveling through the astral realms. I didn't
were you stalking him? You stalking him with your consciousness?
Wasn't like he didn't know it though. He really was having nothing to do with me. But I mean, I got punched in the third eye by a woman who I thought at that time I later found out was like his girlfriend, but she looked like me. So I never really knew, was it me, my higher self teaching me, or the version of a separate being? Either way, it was a major lesson. And over the years, I just kept learning that lesson. If you're choosing to serve the light or any of the other agendas that were mentioned, because all the other agendas do not necessitate, I mean, service to self, which is an agenda that isn't necessarily control, domination, manipulation, secrecy, coercion. The vast majority of humans on earth are in service to self, right? Then you have service to the balance, right? Service to the balance is those who understand, like, if things get too out of balance, wow, that's when you have people going insane, right? And you're starting to see that right now. So there's a lot of beings in service to the balance who are really becoming more prominent. For example, Thoth, if you know Thoth, that being has served the balance. That means equally comfortable using dark and using light. Another ascended master who you may know, Elvira, who some people think she's just a Halloween character, but no, she's an actual ascended master. She serves the balance. So they're working to keep things. And if you ever meet a human who serves the balance, there's not a ton of those on Earth, but they can be not very nice people and yet really enlightened, like really awakened. And like, you'll be like, how could that person be so nasty? They're just comfortable because they understand, if I have to use harm to put you in your place, I will. Like, it's just balance. And then serving the greater good, that's where the most of the light workers are, right? And then you've got your circles of people who just are very non-attached and are mostly saying, what is God's will here? How may I be a vehicle for that without my own personal agenda getting in the way, or my own personal will?
Darling, a lot to say about all that. But what's Heidi saying here? I was taught when taking a course at Boulder Psychic Institute to absolutely always have consent to heal. And that got me thinking about sending. Yeah. to a certain person. I do send love out 360 to whomever.
Yeah.
That's it. Whoever, and she says, can use it. Yes, sending love. It's interesting that you say that, Heidi. Sending love means that you're viewing that person, you're thinking about that person in a limited capacity. They need something and I'm going to send it to them. Even if it's a group, a collective, or a country, like they need something and I'm going to like fix it. They need to be fixed. I once heard many years ago, which never left me, probably because I was hanging out with him at the time, that when Jesus healed people, he didn't look at them dripping their leprosy. He saw the perfection of their soul. So he didn't heal them saying, you need my healing. He just saw them as their true self rather than the mask they were wearing during their human life, their human journey. And in that focus of who they really are, in their powerful soul self, if you like, they acclimated to that frequency, that vision, and then miraculous healings happened. So yes, sending love comes from a place of they need. So what's the most dominant thought here? They're needing and I'm fixing, which is the whole way our medical structure is, right? I'm going to fix you. I'm going to heal you. Even like the healers, but rather seeing people in their perfection without, like, I'm going to focus on who you really are, not what you're pretending to be right now in your limitedness. And so, yeah, that would be a more powerful way of sending love or being love. I'm going to see the preferred outcome of this situation, of this group. Like if you see people fighting in the streets, protests everywhere, everyone's clashing, rather than sending love, like, let me send some love so people feel loved. I'm going to see these people awakening to the love that they are and thinking, well, this is futile, arguing with somebody. Let me be their friend instead. Let me shake hands with that person. Like, you're seeing the ultimate outcome. I love that Jesus explanation. Yeah. Which is really what we're talking about with timelines today.
Well, can I say also one other thing? Because the sending love thing, I totally get it, because and I love your perspective on that you just shared, Karen. And I think that we as light workers, we're taught to send love.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what we've been taught, but it's very old paradigm teaching, in my opinion.
Absolutely,
because in truth, we don't know what that person needs.
Right.
We don't know. So what I've been taught and what I teach my students is how to be the vehicle for God's energy, God's consciousness to come through, and to ask either God, source, creator, the angels, or whomever I'm working with, to take that energy and utilize it in accordance with God's divine perfection and send it wherever or however it's meant to go. I don't even try to label it. I can't pretend to know what that person needs, if anything, or where that energy is meant to go. So I never send love. I actually never do. In fact, I'd like to say that when I was younger, and I still believed in that whole send love, I have sent love to alcoholics because I grew up in an addict. And I will tell you that they raged at me. Because you send love, it's like putting, sometimes it's like putting fire into a volcano. It just amplifies everything. Love makes everything stronger and bigger. So sometimes love is just not the right energy.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I do, Laurie. When I see, like, for instance, I've had a lot of friends my age, people I knew when I was younger, dying of cancer, like dropping dead, especially since 2020. Anyway, yet another friend, and they usually do it before I have time to sort of contact them again and say, hello, it was nice being on earth with you. I love you, whatever. And then they drop dead and I have to talk to them in the afterlife, which is fine. But sometimes it's nice to connect before they leave the body. So another friend, brain tumor, beautiful woman. So what do we do with that? Someone's brain tumor. I ask the guys, is she going to survive this? Like the doctors say no, stage 4 brain tumor. And where I always go when I hear tragic news like that, like, what is her soul wanting her to know? What is the soul plan? What? And then I get the bigger picture. It's like she's a worker, right? She's a worker. She's worked hard all her life. And she has lots of kids, and she looks after her kids, and she looks after her husband. She looks after her clients, and she's always there looking after everybody. So this is an opportunity for her to receive and to know her worth in that respect, because she's such a giver. So like, yeah. And you can, when you ask those questions, like rather than sending love or sending healing, or I want you to be saved, I want you to not have the cancer and to live longer, like, you know, we're in our 60s now, and how long do you want to live? So what happens when she dies? I look at that picture. What are the kids learning from going through the death of a parent? How is that reminding them of the fragility and the preciousness of life? And, you know, what is the soul plan for the kids, or the journey for the kids being adults now, but, and the husband, you know, what's the lesson in all of this? And there's always such a brilliant lesson. And again, I've said this a million times on the show, when you talk to dead people, they're never upset that they died. They're never upset. They've like lived their journey, dying young or old. They've lived their journey. They've had their time. They came what they, you know, they received what they came to receive, and then they've returned home. So as their family and children are crying, they're up there in heaven having a party. And so that's what I always ask, rather than seeing the tragedy. We had this on an Elevate show. I was saying this on the beautiful Kara, I want to call her Kara, but she said Kara Goodman's show that I was on. She recorded yesterday with me. Oh no, I've lost my train of thought thinking of her name. Oh, it's gone. It'll come back.
You said something about
we were discussing it.
Dead, and they are having a party.
Yeah, I was telling Karen. So on an Elevate show I did with a girlfriend a few weeks ago, we had a channeling from one of the beautiful young men that was shot dead mercilessly in the October 7th massacre at the music festival. And his message from spirit about how it was all planned and it was all part of the shift and the awakening. And it was actually, even though it was one of the most heinous unfoldments of brutality and murder of these innocent, beautiful young people that were at a music festival singing about peace, love, and, you know, brown rice. And then they were slaughtered. From our perspective, we see the horror. And from his perspective, he sees it's all part of the awakening plan. So as you said, Laurie, we don't know what they're up to. So why try and fix it or heal it? There's a plan there. Like there's a soul plan there. So I always ask the question, what's the soul plan here? Shirley's got a question. Hey, Shirley. I stepped away from a well-meaning friend, also an ex-husband. Both popped in energetically to view me. I know when they're here, don't welcome them. How do I think that's, I keep the door closed.
Do you want to know? That's an easy one, actually.
That's funny. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but I don't want their visits. I think it's funny.
It's an awesome question, because so many people who are awakening are coming into that recognition that there's beings everywhere all the time. There's energy everywhere all the time. And we have to further develop our discernment, and then also how to utilize our free will. So when the way you positioned that question was, how do I keep them away? Just say, it is against my free will for them to continue to visit. It is against the moment you say that, and notice when I said it, it was not packed with a bunch of emotionality. I was not in any kind of resistance. I was coming from a very neutral yet empowered place. I understand the law of free will protect us. If more people understood how to use the law of free will, we would be fighting and arguing less. Yeah. So a great example, and you know, I don't have the full scope of how broad something like that can reach, but I do know I played with that tool so much during the year of COVID. It was against my free will to be forced to be locked down. It was against my free will to be forced to do a lot of things that people were being forced to do. Every time I said it was against my free will, some other door opened that was way better. it was against my free will to be forced to or asked to do certain things that were not in alignment with who I wanted to be. I use that tool all the time.
Yeah.
It works really well.
Well, it's interesting. I want to put in my little 2 cents worth here, and then we're going to get to your question, Diane. So what she says is she's stepped away. She's stepped away from a well-meaning friend and also an ex-husband. So why does someone step away? They're stepping away because they've got some judgment, some human perspective about what they want from these people in their life, and they no longer want that. So that's
Or else it's just not a vibrational match.
It could not be a vibrational match, but there's some sort of judgment. In truth, when we're outside of these human perspectives and these human bodies and this 3D, 4D experience, there is only connection, there is only unity, and there is only love. So if you view the soul of that person, not the personality that you have a relationship with, but the soul of that person, if you see that love connection that you have with them, who cares that they're spying on you? Like, who cares? I have to say, my ex-husband, not that I do it deliberately, but I'll just be cruising around the house, washing the dishes, something, and he'll just pop in. I'll just pop in and I get to view where he's at in that moment. And I don't hold any malice of him, but our souls are connected. We haven't seen each other for 15 years physically, but our souls are still connected. And when he pops in, sometimes it's his soul and my soul just showing me what's going on in his life. It's usually when he's having a hard time, or he's sick or he's depressed. And I'm like, oh, he's going through that at the moment. Oh, but there's still no physical communication, but we're connected. We'll always be connected, as we are with anybody, really.
You want to know what? I totally agree with you, Karen. I'm not I don't think there's any wrongness of that. However, as free will beings, I think it's important to have a tool where you can say, hey, this is my boundary. It's not okay. It's not okay for you to visit me while I'm in the shower or whatever.
Well, people are always talking about being in the shower. We were talking about this on another show, saying there's no privacy,
in your field.
we got a mob of people looking at us all the time. Because I had a conversation on ATP with Brandon talking, and he was saying telepathy was a psyop and he likes his privacy. And I thought, interesting. And I'm like, I felt like saying to him, I hate to tell you, there's no privacy. There's a mob of people looking at you. I have a friend who's very galactic, and he doesn't live a galactic. He's a businessman. He doesn't live a sort of life like we do, teaching. He just lives his normal life, but he knows he comes from somewhere else. And I met him 25 years ago. His wife, I met him as a client. His wife said to me, it's a bit disconcerting when you think that, 300 aliens are watching you making love. And I just
but
laughed.
That's what you have the right to say.
And you can say, I often do this too. Like, if whoever's up there looking at me, I want a little bit of privacy right now, just go away. Like, whoever that is, I'll just sort of clear the room.
When you really start realizing, and I know you know this, Karen, when you really start realizing how much you are in the driver's seat of your experience,
absolutely,
because you're reclaiming your power as a God being who's just experiencing self through form. Yeah. The more you start recognizing that, the more you realize, like, hey, I have a right to say what's okay and what's not okay.
Oh yeah,
and there are so many. I mean, I had, in my early days of learning to channel, I had so many initially in the denser realms when I was passing, through all the frequency bandwidths and levels and layers of consciousness. There were a lot of dark beings that came to me, and I just learned early on, like, nope, not interested in you. Nope. Yep. Interested. And I had so many so-called dead people who came to me, and some of them I was like, yeah, you're creepy. Then I had reptilians and draconians come, and yeah, you have to make love with those beings. You can't really force them away out of fear. So there are times to have the tool of recognizing, no, I am love. All there is here is love. You can pretend to be whoever you want, but in reality, you're just another gaming consciousness, and I'm the frequency of love. Like, it's just all the different tools that we learn how to utilize that are all at our disposal. And the more tools we have in the realms of consciousness, the more we can navigate with greater success. And those tools just translate in our physical world too. Because if we can do it in the higher realms, where all it is on a certain level, it's your imagination, but it's not, it's real. Then bringing it into the lower realms in the physical world becomes even easier too. Because it's like, oh, I wish you peace, but yeah, we don't really have any business together right now. I don't
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean? It just becomes more like it doesn't have to be all the emotional drama.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I had Michael Tamura on the show years ago, a beautiful, masterful healer that was on our planet for a while. He left his body a year or two ago. Anyway, I was telling him about an experience when I was in the shower and I had this sort of horrific looking head show up, this person show up who looked like he'd been shot in the face, like his eye had been blown out. But it was interesting. When I was viewing him in my third eye, it wasn't dripping with blood. It had scarred over, so it looked like it had happened some time ago. And I had the impression that he had come because he was asking for help, a bit like the little boy in The Sixth Sense, the horrors, the people that are all look like, they're all scarred and everything, and it looks like a horror story, which is the way M. Night Shyamalan made the movie to be, like a horror movie, but it actually was a beautiful love story in many ways. And these beings were just asking for help. And I said to him, oh, you need some help. But that's actually not my job. That's not what I do as a healer. There are other beings around you, either in the physical or in spirit, that can sort of help you cross over. Like I just said that to him and sort of shooed him away in retrospect. And Michael Tamura confirmed that because he looked into it and he said, yeah, he just saw your light and he was looking for help. But I didn't say, let me help you cross over, because I don't see that as my job. There are other people on earth and in spirit who do that. And I've spoken to many of them.
Yeah.
And exactly. You don't have to be. I had this healer on the show recently who said, don't use white light for healing, which is what I do all the time. I said, why? It said it attracts ghosts. They see the light that you're utilizing and they're like, oh, I'm going to the light and it's you. And then I thought, I don't care if I attract ghosts. If I attract ghosts. I'll shoo them away if I don't want them there.
See, I don't even really, I get that, but that's not even in my world either. Because when I do healing, the energy is so pure, there's nothing can get through. Nothing. No.
So
they're
Diane,
not even anywhere near that frequency where I'm operating.
Yeah.
No. But I get
my nephew just had a brain tumor operation at age 35. That's so young, Diane, and will have treatment to treat the remainder of it at home now and wanting to make croissants from scratch. So that's what you're doing now. He has a 10-inch scar. Oh, it wasn't really a question. You were just telling us about that. So getting back to our conversation about that, somebody you love, somebody who's young, is going through this, rather than sending him love or sending him healing or sending him light, how do you want to deal with this? Like, what is he learning from this? What was the soul plan in this? What is his soul wanting to know while he goes through this human journey? And how can you visualize that timeline? How can you see him gaining the wisdom that's inside the traumatic earth experience? And ask your mob, ask your guides to show you that, or his guides, And
I would also ask that, this sounds like prayer, but as you learn to work with energy, it gets easier and easier to do this with energy. But to ask that God's will, as long as you in your heart have a loving connection with, whether it's God, source, creator, the infinite, the all that is, however you uniquely identify that source, that its will, and I say it because it's really beyond gender, but some people say mother, father, whatever, that its will prevails, because its will is a benevolent will, and there's a reason and purpose for everything. And
absolutely,
there is some reason for this experience. So, but whatever that is, it's going to be, if it's God's will, it's going to be a loving will that serves that soul's agenda. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Karen, about, what does the soul want here? What is the soul's agenda? What is the soul desiring out of this? So that's always God's will, right?
I had a beautiful, amazing psychic on the show many years ago, Jamie Butler, and she was the part of starting the Channeling Eric channel. Do you know that at all? Eric was a kid that shot himself when he was like 20, 21.
Oh,
and his mother, who was brought up by militant atheists, she said, was a busy MD with 5 children, never thought about spirituality or psychics, and was skeptical about psychics. Anyway, so she ended up going to a psychic and connecting to him, and one that she landed on for a good length of time was Jamie Butler, one of the most amazing psychics I've ever met. Anyway, on their show,
what was the mother's name?
Elisa with an E. Elisa Medhus.
Oh, okay.
Well, Elisa Medhus. Anyway, and the channel's still going, and she interviews a lot of dead people with lots of different psychics. It's a great channel. So Jamie was channeling Jesus one day, and Elisa asked Jamie, have you had other lives on earth since the time of Jesus? And he said, yeah, many. And she said, can you share one? And it's so funny, as I was listening to this, he said, I came in and I said it at the same time she did in 1962. I said it at the same time, like I knew. I came in as a really sick child, he said, desperately ill baby that never left the hospital. And I died at around 2. And Elisa's like, why did you do that? Like, why? Why did you have that life? Not because he had any karma or lessons. He said, I came in to bring people together, to create more love, to create more connection and unity within the community, because the child was apparently on television, and there were fundraisers for the child, and people came together, not just in the family, but the whole community. And then it aired on, national television. Let's save this child, let's raise, and just creating that focus and that consciousness on love and unity and healing. So the soul plan was not to have this feathered nest. It never really is. Like, we come in, but again, it wasn't like he was having this karmic life. He was choosing to come in as a sick child for the benefit of others. And it makes me cry even thinking about it. And so, and again, another good friend of mine died of cancer a few years ago. And at the time he was really sick, he pushed me away. And when he tolerated me for being a psychic medium that talked to, dead people and spirits and so on and so forth, he got really angry with me. He said, I don't believe in you and your spirit guides. And he got really into his Jewish faith, and he started reading, the Jewish religion. And that was the way he went. And he pushed me away physically. And after he died, I said, why did you push me away like that? Because one of our last communications was, I don't believe in what you do, but I still love you. So it was like he didn't push me away in his heart, but he pushed me away in his mind. And he said the soul plan in this lifetime was to bring people together, and I did that through his music. He was an amazing musician. And he said the illness was actually a part of that too, because so many, I had been in so many different circles. He was Jewish. He did a lot of kirtan and Buddhism stuff, and he played at, weddings and parties, and he just met people from all walks of life that loved him and saw his genius as a musician. And during his sickness, they came from all over Australia to rally around him. And then during his funeral, the same thing happened. Like, he brought people together from all over the world, and in love and compassion for him going through the sickness. And he said, I didn't want you coming in and healing me. That wasn't the plan. That's why I pushed you away. And I'm like, I get it now.
See, that's such a great example of, like, we think like the solution is just to send love and light and our agenda, when it's really, there's a big,
there's
God's
a bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Always, right.
Yeah. Let's
talk about timelines, can we?
Let's talk about timelines. My nephew's tumor news happened just before my son's wedding. Brought our family together in a it's going to make me cry. Let's talk about timelines so I don't bawl my eyes out. Thank you, Diane. Okay, what's your understanding of timelines? Pardon, Diane? I missed that.
Here to weather the storms.
Yeah. What's your understanding of timelines?
Yeah. All right. Well, so here's my definition of timelines. Timelines are a set or a chosen experience or set of experiences. That's how I define a timeline. And the way we experience a timeline is as if it's through linear time, but it's really the soul or the person or the group has chosen some kind of experience. And that experience potentially could be an instant, or could be months or years, or in linear time, but it's really the experience. So, and then I think it's really important, because this is one of the things that always gets me on the topic of timelines, is that we have collective timelines, and sub-collective timelines and personal timelines, right?
Yeah.
And so, and you could even, some of the timelines are, we could call it global, but we could all, there's some timelines that are more than global. They're not just Earth, they're galactic timelines, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we know we have universal timelines, right? And then, of course, you have like these secondary, tertiary types of timelines that are sub-collectives, smaller groups. So, you know, one of the most wonderful examples of a global timeline is like a world war or a COVID experience or a lockdown. And so this is why this topic here, and then, well, let me come back to that. Then there's these personal timelines. So just something that's unique to you that you're going through, that you personally are somehow addressing, even though other people might address that in their unique ways, you're going through it in a very personal way. So when you understand these things, you start to realize like, oh, well, if it's a collective or global timeline, you can experience it in your unique way based on your frequency and consciousness, your energy and consciousness. And yes, your unique soul's agenda and your contracts, etc. But regardless, if it's going on globally, it's not usually something you can deny unless you're living in, you know, like a, you know, under a rock somewhere. So, because a lot of times people, I think they really confuse this. They think, oh, I don't have to be on that timeline. Well, if it's a global, if it's part of the global or the universal or galactic timeline, you're on it.
Yeah,
you're on it.
Totally with you there.
You can't pretend like this. This is the whole magical thinking.
Yeah.
And when I really got really clear on this, it was because when COVID was going on, a lot of my students were coming to me and they were like, how do I get off this timeline?
Right.
And I was like, well, you don't. You have to navigate it. How do you want to navigate it? It's going on globally. It's not something. Exactly. And no matter how many times I kept, because of my own exploration of consciousness, right? Those students were a reflection of my consciousness. So, because I was also inquiring, is this absolutely required for the global? Is there a parallel reality in this linear time and space, meaning 2020, where that's not going on? I asked, every time I asked, every time I got, no. That's not how that's not how reality works. But when people talk about bifurcation of timelines, it drives me crazy because they make it sound like, okay, you know, there's a bifurcation of timeline on this topic. There's a bifurcation. No, there's global things happening and you're getting an opportunity to choose consciously or unconsciously how you're going to experience it.
Exactly.
All of it is just minutia in the quantum field. It's all energetic.
In that decision that you're talking about, and you get to choose how you're going to experience it, is the timeline you jump on, right? So it's happening globally. You're on the time. Because I had this guy, Garnet,
personal or tertiary timeline.
Sorry. Yeah, I had this guy, Garnet Schulhauser, on the show, who went to a parallel reality of Earth, and they went through the pandemic. Exactly like when you said, I've looked at all is this not happening in other places? And you said, and every time, no. And I'm like, right. And he had this, but I don't know if he was in a future time, but out of the pandemic, they developed teleportation in this parallel Earth, right? Because when all the planes and trains and everything stopped, they loved the silence and the pollution, and the air was better, and they're like, how can we have more of that? Anyway, this is a parallel reality of Earth. Didn't happen on this Earth, but that pandemic did still happen. So it's interesting. But yeah, you're jumping timelines in that you could experience that experience as tragedy, or you get to choose how you navigate it, and then you can experience it as glorious. Like I was talking with I think it was Cara yesterday, and also with Gail, who I had on the show this week, about how, because Gail is 72 now, and she woke up in 2020, and she's the most galactic person I've ever had on the show. She's incredible what she's doing. And she's only had a spiritual awakening in her late 60s, 5 years ago. Like, whoa. But the pandemic, the lockdowns, like she had retired, her parents had died, and there she was with nothing to do. So she started meditating, and she had this spiritual awakening. Like the guide said to me, that was all a part of the mass awakening on the planet, the pandemic was a part of that plan. So yeah, you're not going to escape it, but how you're going to navigate it and how you choose to navigate it is how you choose the timeline you're on personally. Yeah. So great.
And then when it comes to timelines, it's also important to understand, of course, you have to be a vibrational match. So for what you want. So, because like the COVID experience, again, such a great learning experience for understanding timelines, because obviously there were some people who were experiencing the worst imaginable types of experiences.
Yeah,
and
they were.
people
Absolutely.
like me, my life agenda, my soul's agenda, my life experience has one of the things I really don't have to master in this lifetime very much at all is stuff related to physical illness or dis-ease. I had zero fear about that. And it has a lot to do with the DNA activations too. So zero concern about anything related to COVID, zero fear about anything related to even vaxes or shots or any of that. So it just personally barely affected me on a personal level. In fact, that was such a great year for me because I was getting the opportunity to share in ways about this kind of information, you know.
Absolutely.
It was so helpful, right? Now,
absolutely.
The other thing about timelines that's really helpful to understand is that within each of us, we have, within our own personal experience, we have these kinds of timeline types of experiences of how we place our reality. Like, in other words, we have within us what you could call an inevitable timeline, things that we believe are inevitable. They're going to happen no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
The sun's going to rise tomorrow. The moon's going to rise, right? The tides are going to shift. I'm going to brush my teeth tonight. Whatever those things are that you know are inevitable, like your dog's going to give you a kiss and ask for dinner, you know, whatever. And then that energy of what's inevitable in your lifetime, a lot of times you're putting stuff in there that you either want or don't want. So in other words, sometimes I call that miscreation. I'll circle back to that. I mean, I do call it miscreation. Then you have a secondary timeline within you that's conditional within your own self, things that might happen, but they might not. You're just not sure. You don't know. Well, and some of it's pleasant and some of it's not. Like I might go to the movies tomorrow night, or, you know, like I might take a trip to California, like those kinds of things, or, you know, or anyway, they could be positive or negative. Like, oh my God, I might, you know, if it's fear-based, oh my God, I might get jumped if I walk in the middle of the night, right? If it could be fear-based. Mm-hmm. And then you have, and this is kind of the thing that a lot of people don't fully understand about manifesting. You have things that you put energetically in your field called an impossible timeline. And those are the things that you typically think are impossible for you. Mm-hmm. And most people put their dreams, hopes, goals, and desires on that. And sometimes they can overlap, like conditional or impossible, meaning I might be able to go to Australia one day, possibly, but I don't know if it's possible for me. So it's overlapping, right? Yeah. But usually we'll put things on that impossible timeline that we really want, that we just don't know are possible for us.
Exactly.
And when people don't understand that they're doing that, they're basically, in a sense, making it impossible for them to achieve their goals, dreams, hopes, and desires.
Exactly, but it's still. I'm hurrying you up because we've got 10 minutes left of the show. It's gone so quickly, and I haven't done a station ID break, and I want to talk about the impossible. So you're listening to Elevate the Awareness Shift, Waking the Quantum Self with KAren Swain and Lorianne Spagna on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the house. And we're talking collapsing timelines today, or timelines, the impossible timelines. So my mother, and you're saying the impossible timelines are the desires that you have, you put, you know, in your vibrational escrow or in a timeline, you create a timeline, or you tap into a timeline that you believe is impossible. I saw my mother do that. She had freckly skin. She married a man with very olive skin. And even though they were divorced, I remember her screaming, I wish I had skin like your father. She had skin cancers, burnt off all the time. And she used to scream about, I wish I had thick hair. I hate my hair. I wish I had thick hair. I'm too tall, men don't like tall women. Like, I just remember as a child listening to her complaining about things and wanting things that she believed were impossible. But then she died and reincarnated, and every single thing she complained about in that manifested in her next life, like olive skin, thick hair, shorter, bigger boobs, like everything, absolutely everything I remember her complaining about manifested in a different life. So it's so interesting. Even though she felt it was impossible, I don't think anything's impossible. What do they say? I'm impossible. I'm possible.
I'm possible, right?
I'm possible. But yeah, so before we go, as I said, 10 minutes left, specifically, how do you collapse a timeline? If you're feeling like maybe you're sick and there's a you out there on another timeline, what would you say about that, darling one?
Yeah. The way you, first of all, to collapse a timeline, you have to recognize it's an experience that you're simply not interested in having. So when you understand it's an experience you're simply not interested in having, and it really doesn't serve you, it's not going to serve you. You have to be clear. There's just really nothing about that that's going to serve you. Like, you have to be really clear. In order to be that, there can be no emotional entanglement. The moment there's any emotionality, you are entangled with that timeline. The emotional aspect is the emotions are the energy that entangle you in an experience, which means you have zero trigger. The trigger cannot be, you can't be triggered. So let's say someone says, oh, you're going to be forced to take a shot, or you're going to be forced to get some kind of digital ID. You're going to be forced. And you're like, how fucking wrong is that? Oops, excuse me. How wrong is that? You curse, don't you? Because I don't.
So I had Brandon on the show a few weeks ago. I had every second word with
all right.
So I'm like, I wonder if you two will take me down.
Reactivity, trigger, push, pull. You're now engaged in the timeline.
Absolutely.
So the divine neutrality is, I have no triggers on this. I'm just not interested in it. There's infinite other ways for me to learn, grow, heal, evolve, explore. And because there's just no emotion, I don't need to be pulled into that timeline. Now, once you're in that neutral enough state, it's still going to come up. If you responded in some way through consciousness, or you engaged with it through the news, through the media, through conversation, talking at the water cooler, you're already engaged on that timeline. So to collapse it, you have to not only get neutral, not only recognize your power in not being triggered and or emotional, but you have to completely withdraw your attention from it.
Absolutely.
You really have to withdraw. You have to, and then you can maintain awareness. You can be like, oh, it's out there. I get it. People are having that experience. I'm just not choosing that. I'm not having it.
And we've done that. Many of us have done that. We've been in situations we've not preferred, and maybe we've, cried about it and grumbled about it and bitched about it. And then maybe something else happened in our lives which took our focus off it, and all our focus went somewhere else. And so what we were bitching and grumbling about and thinking was terrible kind of just disappears. It's like, what happened to that situation? It sort of disappeared. It's like stopped being a part of your reality because you stopped focusing on it. There was a great Simpsons show like this.
It's just really important. You can't be in denial of it. That's a whole other thing, right? Light workers love to do that. They love to be in denial. And it's not, you can't be in denial. You have to be in total acceptance and allowance, right? It exists. It's in the field. It exists. It's out there. Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely.
It's not my choice, not my game. Right? What was the Simpsons thing? You have enough time to, we're rushing through.
Radical acceptance. Doesn't it go quickly? Laurie said, I want to talk about this and I want to do some coaching. And I want to do that. I said, an hour goes so quickly, Laurie. You'll be surprised at how quickly an hour goes. It's been so much fun, by the way, to have you on, to have this conversation. I was just going to say there was a great Simpsons episode many years ago when I was watching it when my daughter was a child, of the Michelin Man, all the big posters around whatever that town was that they lived in, Springfield, were coming to life, and they were destroying things like the big, potato man for the potato chips, and the Michelin Man for the tires, and the McDonald's clown, and they were becoming monsters and destroying the town. And either Lisa or Homer, one of the characters in The Simpsons, said, just turn your back on it and stop focusing on it. And when they didn't have the focus, they started dying because people weren't looking at them and focusing on them, even though they were creating mass destruction. And there was such wisdom in this cartoon. There was such wisdom in that, what we do is terrible things happen. And we all look at it and focus on it and say, isn't it bad? And we get, as you say, entangled because we're emotionally entangled.
That's one of the biggest agendas of the dark. That's how they control, dominate, manipulate. They just stick a TV, a brainwashing device in front of your computer, like computer, TV, wherever, and they basically feed it 24 hours a day of drama, hitting dopamine hits, and then and painting of whoever's, divide and conquer mentality, so that you can get into that timeline of their choice. This is why there's so many World War II movies right now, and it's like there's an agenda. All right, I could go on and on because I love
that. What you're saying is the reason I went on media as this. I was a teacher of deliberate creation and psychic and all that sort of thing, but I felt like when I did a healing course in my 30s, and we talked about different brain waves, and I understood that media creates a alpha, a theta brainwave, in that when you're watching some form of media, whether it's music or television or some screen, it relaxes you because you're sort of focusing, you're not thinking, you're observing, and in that relaxed state, your mind opens and information can just sink into your subconscious and program you so easily. Like it is, television is such a programming tool. When I realized that, I thought I wanted to use the media to teach people about their powers of creation and to be more deliberate in their thinking and not to be hypnotized by the media system that is pumping out messages of fear, like you said at the beginning of this, constantly bombarding our psyche with what to look out for, what's dangerous, what's to be scared of, how we're going to get old and get sick and die.
Screwing you over here. Look over here so you don't see what I'm doing over here.
Yeah. So I mean, that whole agenda is exactly. So here I am 16 years later and I'm still doing it. Still pumping out. Hopefully, I thought we called this show Elevate because we are elevate consciousness. So you can be aware of the agendas happening on Earth. But again, if you're emotionally entangled, I love you to use your words. If you're like those bloody cabal, they're controlling and destroying the world. Like if you're in that emotional upset, you're now part of creating and maintaining that timeline, or you're upset, like you're a part of the creation of it. But if you understand that life is a journey of infinite possibility and that we're here to explore the contrast, and just like we've discussed today on the show, like Jesus came in as a sick child, a baby, and pulls people together, and Diane recognizes that her beautiful young nephew with a brain tumor is pulling the family together and creating more love and unity. If you realize that the contrast we experience here on Earth has its benefit, and you can ask the question, like, what is the benefit to me and what is the benefit to humanity for this situation, then you're not emotionally entangled and you have more power to influence your own life and this world. Like Esther says, someone connected to the stream of pure positive energy, to the stream of love, is more influenced than millions who are not, than 1,000 who are not. So there could be 1,000 protesters saying, we don't want this. And then there could be one person standing in their peace and seeing the bigger picture. And that power of influence is like greater than the hordes out on the streets screaming and yelling. Yeah, that's the power of who we are. How much time have we got left? 2 minutes, darling one. Anything you want to say before we go?
I will say that's how the COVID timeline stopped. Like they were really trying to keep it going, but people just got bored. Like literally, people just got bored.
They did. They tried to roll out different diseases, and people were like, not that again.
Yes, exactly.
This flu and then that flu.
The power that you have by using your consciousness to decide what kind of experience you're going to have. I wish we could have gotten more to miscreation because I love that. People.
Well, we can do this again. It's been so much fun. I just say these Elevate shows are myself and friends. Not Lori-Ann Spagna, that's you. KAren Swain was going to come on once a month, but she's tied up. So yeah, I just get the opportunity. Kristen comes on and we can just banter. And
I love you. We always have such great chats. We could go on.
Exactly. Forever. It's been so much fun to be on.
Thank you.
For having you, darling one. Tell people where they can find you. I think it's Lori-Ann Spagna or Lori Spagna.
Yeah, they can find me on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Lori Spagna, and they can find me at my website, lorispagna.com. And if they want to get lots of juicy, free, magnificent gifts, they can go to lorispagna.com/free gifts. Lots of stuff about DNA activations and psychic development and animal communication, and lots of great stuff there.
But as I say, these Wednesday night, Thursday mornings here in the States, Wednesday night shows are here for just this sort of thing. And if people have things they want to explore, like Heidi and Shirley, I love that you're always here and supporting us and putting your comments, and Diane, two Dianes, and Vladdy's usually here, and all the beautiful people that are online. If you have things that you want to nut out, mesh out, let me know. Send me an email, go to KarenSwain.com and let me know what you want to discuss, what you want to know more about. I'd love your questions, or leave them in the comments under the Rumble, Odyssey, YouTube, Facebook. We're even on Twitch today. We haven't had any Twitches in the chat today. But yeah, just send me an email or leave a comment and let us know what you want to discuss. And these are what these shows are for. How we are powerful, brilliant human beings with one at a time. Thank you, beautiful one. It's always a pleasure and a joy.
Fun.
Big love to all you beautiful, luscious ladies online, luscious ladies in the chat. And I know there's guys too, luscious guys online too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye for now.